Hey everyone, I'm Paul with MadCap Software. Welcome to the second video in our series on styles in MadCap Flare. So in this video, we are going to take a look at creating and editing your style sheet. So creating, in other words, adding a new style sheet file, which is super easy, and you may not even need to do it depending on the template that you started out with, and then editing your style sheet, which is one of the most important things you need to do. So we're going to look at that, and we're going to take a look at some of the different views that you can use to edit edit your style sheet, and some of the options that are in there, especially the more important options. All right, so that's what we got ahead of us. Let's get going. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is make sure that you have a style sheet file in your Flare project. And let's go into Flare and see how easy that is. Now, I already have a style sheet in this project because I created this based on one of the built-in project templates in Flare, and it already came with one. But maybe I need another one, or maybe I created a project in some way that it didn't have a style sheet, or I got rid of it. So like everything else, just go and find that folder, right click it, select new and style sheet right there. And you're going to give it a name down here at the bottom. Just my new style sheet is what we'll name this one. You got different factory templates up here. Usually you're going to select basic, and that's good enough. You could select one of these others. Modern is just going to give you some, special styles in there. You would not be selecting, say, search highlight for your main style sheet. Usually that is used for some other purpose in Flare that you can read about. Normally, you're just going to select basic, and this will put it in the folder that you selected, resources, style sheets. Click add, and there is your new style sheet over on the left side. Yep, right there, my new style sheet, and it opens it up in the editor. Okay, so that's how easy it is to create a new style sheet. I will show you what I do, because you might be wondering, well, do I need one style sheet? Do I need multiple style sheets? I think most people can probably be just fine with just one style sheet, but you can add more. This is actually my project, my big project, where I have the vast majority of my stuff. And if I open up resources, you can see I got a lot of subfolders in here, and I've got a style sheets one and shared. I organize things according to products, and then I also have shared folders for files that are going to be shared between all of our product documentation. So I do have a main one. This is the one where the vast majority of the stuff is in Styles CSS. This one right here, don't worry about that one. That one happens to be a style sheet that I use with one of my JavaScript files, which is in this folder. And so no need to go down that road. But I do have a second folder, or a second style sheet, that I do use specifically for the home page. So if you look at the Flare online help, you're going to see that the very first page you come to, the home page, it looks different than all of the interior pages. And because there are some very unique things in there, I just have this little style sheet that I use for parts of that. So that is what I'm doing. But you do you figure out whether you need just one style sheet or multiple ones, and this becomes clear as you get into your project and start messing around with it. All right, what we're going to talk about next are the views, the different ways that you can view the style sheet editor and work in them. And the first view that we want to take a look at is the simplified view. When I created that new style sheet just a little bit ago, it opened it up, and by default, it was opening up to the view that I last had opened. In this case, it was simplified. And there's this toggle button right here that lets you go between simplified view and advanced view. And I'm going to close this style sheet, and I'm going to open up the main one. because that is the primary one that we are using in this little project. Okay, so there that style sheet is, and it is open up in the simplified view. So the simplified view, years ago when we first started MadCap Flare, we wanted to have a couple of ways for people to work in the style sheet editor. One way for people who were really, really new to style sheets and CSS, and another way for people who were more advanced. So we have the simplified view and the advanced view, and we still do. But what's happened is over time, the advanced view has gotten easier and easier to use, but we still do have this simplified view. Now, the simplified view is going to look a lot different. First of all, because you see things, you see the styles in the grid, in this grid, and their name is in the very left column, and you can see it looks like they are all sorted alphabetically, and you can click any of these columns to resort according to that column. So everything is, just in order there. But probably most of all, you're going to click the name column and you're going to look at your styles. It's just easier to find things usually that way. And so, yeah, you got this grid view, and if you look through these styles, some of these are going to look really weird and foreign. And as you look down them, some of them will make more sense than others. There is a lot in here that is really not going to make sense to someone who's brand new right away. But then you get down to these H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, H6, and you can just guess what these are. This is for heading 1, heading 2 levels, and so on. You come down, you see image or IMG, and of course that makes sense. That's a style that you would associate with an image. That makes sense. And then you come all the way down. See, there's a whole bunch of styles in here. You come all the way down, you get to P, and that's P for paragraph. And so some of these are going to make sense, but a whole lot of them won't right away, but they will over time. And you can see that some of them have these dots with them, a dot pop up, whereas this one just has an A. And these are things we're going to talk about in another video when we talk about selectors. All right. So you got all this stuff in here, and you also have a nice preview over in this other column. So you can quickly just glance over and see, oh, if I select this one, it's going to look like this if I apply that, or I might want to make certain changes to that. So this view is very, very simple to make changes in. One thing that you can do is just select the row, and you could make some changes up in this local toolbar up here. I'm just going to expand it to show you all the options from here on over. So I could change the font size, and it goes up, and I could change the color and so on. Or I could double click the thing, and it opens up this dialog. And this might look really familiar to you. You're looking at this and, all right, you got these tabs in here, but this is somewhat similar to Microsoft Word. So if you're used to making formatting changes there, you're used to it in here too. So you can select the font. You can make all kinds of font changes. What's the font family, the size, the color. You can go into paragraph, and you could set the spacing before it and after it. And these are all really super easy to use. You have your values, and then you have units of measurement. And sometimes you'll see things like EM, and you're thinking, well, I don't have no idea what an EM is. That's okay. It's just a relative unit of measurement, similar to a percentage, but you can change things as you want. You could say, you could go into pixels instead and set it there, or any of these other things. So it's pretty easy to work through this and make your changes. So yeah, that's why it is called the simplified view. Now, we're gonna next talk about and I'm gonna go ahead and save my change there. So the only change I made was making that font much bigger. We are going to now switch over and look at the advanced view and see how that is different in several ways, but still very easy to use. Now let's switch over and let's go from the simplified view to the advanced view and see the differences. So again, you simply click this toggle button right here, and it'll switch from simplified to advanced view. And sometimes it goes really fast like that. And sometimes, as you've seen, there will be a bit of a lag. And it's usually because my computer is running slow. It's running a process somewhere. And so it just takes a moment for it to come in, but that came in pretty fast. So you can see immediately this looks different. So for one thing, the simplified view had that grid. And in this view, the advanced view, we're using a tree view over on the left, okay? So you come down here and you can see all these same styles, and there's that H1, but you will also see some arrows next to some of them. That means that contains some things. It contains, maybe it contains some of what are called classes. There's you can think of them as children of that style. So there's the main paragraph tag, but then it's got several, children in here that are similar, but they are kind of doing their own thing in some respects. Okay, so you got this tree view, but otherwise it's pretty much the same. So this P footer in the grid view, in the simplified view, you would see that as P dot footer, but here it's just collapsed under that. All right, so that is one change, the fact that you've got this tree view, but I really would encourage people to use the advanced view simply because it has really changed over the years, and I really don't see much difference in the ease of use between simplified and advanced. Now, if you really feel more comfortable with simplified, especially when you're beginning, by all means, use that. But see if you can give advanced view a shot and see how it feels to you. One thing about the advanced view is there are a lot more options. There are a lot more settings for styles in here. You saw when I opened up that dialog in the simplified view, there were several tabs in there, but and they all had fields in them, but this has a lot more than that. So once you get on your way in your Flare project, you're going to find that there are certain things that you need to do. You just can't accomplish them in the simplified view. So you have to switch over to the advanced view. All right. So you have the styles or the selectors over here on the left, and the properties are over here on the right. So you would just come over here and look for what you need. So you can see, let's go back to that H1 where I made the change. And you're going to see if I made the change in one view, it's going to show up in the other view. There's my 36 points. And I could do something like, let's see, let's go to text decoration. Let's make it underlined. All right, I could do that. So you have these little ellipsis buttons so you can open up options, and the options are specific to whatever these properties are. All right. But if you already know how to write it, you can just click in that cell and write what you want, as long as it is valid CSS. Okay, so you can see there are all kinds of possibilities. There's border and lists, and there are all kinds of property groups in here. Now, this is the properties in this case are showing also in tree view, just like they are over here, but you can also switch to alphabetical view. So the advanced view has just certain options in here that are specific for it that you're not going to find in the simplified view. So if I want to switch to alphabetical view, I just click that button right there, and now it's everything in here. So if I know that I want to find something very specific and I know the name of it, I could come in here and quickly find it. Whereas in the other one, maybe you have to guess which group it's in. Sometimes it might be easier to find things in alphabetical view. Sometimes it might be easier to find it in group view. Now, the other thing that you have in here, and this is really cool, I use this all the time, is this ability to filter your properties. So right now, this drop down is showing all properties. It's everything. And you saw that it's a lot of properties. Well, I could select one of these properties in here, or one of these options in here, set locally properties. And this tells you what it is. So it's just going to limit it to properties that are set in this style sheet. I selected that and you saw it limited it to just these. What that means is things that are set, a lot of those properties, there were no settings on them. Nothing had been done. And so if you just want to see, all right, I want to see for H1, what are the things that I've done? And so I don't have to, scroll through everything, and it'll limit it. These are just the things. And there's a one that's kind of similar, this one right here. So it shows the properties are set in this or an imported style sheet. So you're getting this plus some more. And then you have assorted relevant properties. And this one is really what we think that are going to be the most common settings for this particular style. So this is showing a lot more in here, but it's not showing everything. It's just, we're thinking, okay, if somebody selects H1, what are they most likely going to want to change? So it's sort of a guessing game on our part that we think you might want to change these things, but you might want to change something that's not in here. So you switch back to all properties. All right, so it's just different ways to filter what you're seeing here. So that is pretty nice. So those are some of the main things that are going to be different between the advanced view and the simplified view. But you can see that it's really, once you understand a couple of things in here, it's not hard to get around and find what you need. All right, so next, I want to take a look at some common options. I looked at some specific options for this advanced view, but there are some common options that you're seeing up here in the toolbars that are shared between the advanced view and the simplified view. You can use them whether you're in one view or the other. Up next, let's go through those common options so that you can really use the style sheet editor more and more to your benefit. All right, whether you are using simplified or advanced view, there is this other filter drop down over on the left-hand side. And this is going to let you limit what you see in here. So right now it's showing all the styles. So you got this long scroll bar there because it's showing you absolutely everything. Well, you can click that and select another one of these options to limit what you're seeing in here so you can find it more quickly. And most of these are pretty self-explanatory. You know what they mean, paragraph styles. So I could select that, and these are block level things. And yeah, it's more than just the P tag. It's some of these other things, but they're considered paragraph style, these block styles. Or you could get even more specific and say, just give me the heading styles. So you got H1 through H6 in there, or you could say, give me the image styles. And it's just a few things in there. So it's just another way to control what you're seeing in there. And that can be really nice. All right, another thing you're going to see is this hide inherited buttoning. You're thinking, well, what are you talking about, inherited? Well, we are going to talk about inheritance in another video, but I do want to talk about this here since it's right in front of our face. And maybe you've already noticed, you're going to see a lot of things that are in black text and some things that are in gray text, both in the styles and over in, let me find one that's selected here, and let me find set. So you can see there's a one that is dark or like this. Let's go to H1. And I'm looking for right here. You're going to see some things that are dark. The font is dark, and a lot of these are really light. And you remember that I went in and I changed the font size to 36. So I explicitly set it. And from the moment I set that, it was no longer inherited. Before, it was inheriting. And so when you see something in gray, it's inheriting it. Well, the styles and these properties are inheriting things from another style sheet. So when you first install Flare and it goes into your C drive and program files and down there in MadCap software, and it's installed there. Well, where you installed it, there are gobs and gobs of folders and files. And some of those files in there are style sheets, and there's lots of them in there. And that helps Flare work the way that it does. And so the idea is you can come into your style sheet and there's loads of stuff in here, but you're not necessarily going to use it all. And if you don't select, but behind the scenes, these things may be used, but you haven't gone into your style sheet and set it to anything. But it needs a value. So what's happening is if you hover over one of these, you're going to see the style sheet it's coming from. And you can see that path there all the way down into program files. Now, you don't want to go in to those style sheets where you installed Flare and edit those. Just leave those alone. But it's just to let you know they're coming from somewhere. These things are coming from somewhere. All right. So if you are looking at this and seeing lots and lots of gray and you're thinking, I don't want to see all that, just hide that stuff. And so now you're just going to see the black over here. This is stuff that is set in this style sheet, and it's not inheriting everything. Some stuff it might be inheriting. If I click on div, yeah, it's inheriting some stuff because you see the gray in here, but not everything. All right. So you can toggle that on and off if you want to see or hide inherited stuff. And again, I am going to go into inheritance more in another video because it's more than just what you're seeing here in this editor. Now, another thing I'm going to go into in another video are mediums, right? And so I'm not going to explain exactly everything about those here, but you do see this field up here. It says medium. And so this has to do with the fact that you can set everything on your default medium and not know anything about mediums at all. And it's like, these are the styles and the properties and everything. But maybe you have another set of styles that, for the most part, they're going to use everything that the default medium has, 99% of that. But maybe there's one little difference, and you want that medium to be used for a certain output where the color is maybe slightly different. And so you can create these mediums. And I'm going to switch over to Simplified View here. And you're going to see that, it's just lagging just a second here. You're going to see you got the mediums folder here, and it comes out of the box with certain things. Now, some of these mobile, tablet, those are actually technically media queries, which I'll talk to again in a later video. But you got this print medium here, and you got your default medium. And so those are out of the box, but you can create new mediums too. I believe, from this dropdown, add medium. So you can add them for different purposes. I have several mediums in my style sheet because we have a whole product line. And so some of our products have different color schemes. Flare has, green or, this certain color. And then Lingo will be orange. And so most of the styles are the same. And I want this medium for, this certain color scheme. So I'm getting ahead of myself. I am going to go into mediums later, just to let you know that sometimes you need to set some styles on one medium, some on another medium. And if I were to switch here in the style sheet in the simplified view from one medium to the next, it's just, you're going to see this change from default to, say, print. And then whatever I set while that is in view, it's going into that medium. Well, the advanced view is actually nicer when it comes to mediums because I can not only can I set things in different mediums, but so I can select it and I can see the mediums side by side. So this is my default medium, my print medium, and they're exactly the same But if I were to make a change in here, color or something, like there you see display block, display block. If I, for example, went into print and set that to something else, so I can see side by side, what are the differences? So that is one thing that you're going to be using. And yeah, I'll cover that more when we get into the mediums, but just wanted to point it out because it is a very important thing. When you get into a style sheet and you want to make changes, I just suggest people train their brains. Once you get in there, the very first thing you should do is look at the medium. Is it on default? Because sometimes what can happen is if the last thing you were doing was you just had, say, the print medium open, and that might be the next thing that is open next time you launch the style sheet editor, and you could make a whole bunch of changes in that medium and not intending to. And so just make sure you look over and see, am I on the right medium? And normally you're going to be writing in the default medium. That's the main one where most stuff is. Okay. Another thing that is important is this button up here for adding selectors. So for example, let's go down to paragraphs again. It's just the easiest thing to explain. And you can see you can't create things at this outer level, the first level. Like I can't make up my own thing and, it's like a paragraph, but it's not, and it's there at that level. But I can create children for that thing. And so you can create selectors. And so I could do, like, if I wanted a special tip, I wanted to use a paragraph, but I want it to be used as a tip. And so it might have a border around it or some background color, something like that. And I can create that. And now I've just created this selector. So selectors is another thing that we're going to talk about in another video. But yeah, very, very important thing. And I'm not going to go through all these options. You want to know about each one of them, I'd go into the online help and look for the style sheet editor, and it breaks everything down for you. Now, another thing that I think is important to point out is sometimes you are in a topic and you want to make a change to something, but you're not exactly sure, what style it is. And I'll actually close the style sheet editor here. And these are pretty easy, H1 and P, but sometimes there will be something else and you're not exactly sure. Well, a tip in here is these structure bars that you see. I like to use the structure bars. And so I'm on a paragraph tag and I'll right click and I'll select a style class and then edit style class. And that will launch the style sheet editor and automatically select that thing. Okay, so I'm working in my content and I've decided I want to make a change to that style. That's a quick way to find it in there. And it's not just for these structure bars over here, because I have this style right here that is character level, not block level. And so I click in it and I see, oh, there's a span tag, and I could do the same thing, right click, style class, edit style class. It opens it up and there it is. So I don't have to go hunting for it. Nice tip that I think can save you some time. Another thing to keep in mind is that I previously was talking about local formatting versus styles. And local formatting is usually done by people using these buttons, these options in here. And so we discourage that. But an exception to that is if you have a style sheet open and you decide I want to change this special emphasis, to change that green color, I can use this right here and it will make the change in my style sheet. So that is an exception to that's one reason to use these options here, but not to create local formatting. Okay, so again, there's lots of options in here. There's lots of things that you can see as you go into the style sheet editor, and you might be wondering about some of these things. And yeah, I don't want to go through all of these, but those are the main things to get you around the style sheet editor, whether you're working in the simplified view or the advanced view. Just some things that you're going to be using as you are developing your style sheet. All right, so we looked at the simplified view and the advanced view and some common options, but next I'm going to go in and look at another way to view your and work with your style sheet, which is the text editor. Okay, so if you're just beginning with style sheets in Flare and CSS in general, you're not going to be using what I'm going to show you next, at least not right away, but over time you might use it. And that is the text editor. And it is helpful to understand it because you understand, you get to know how styles are actually written, kind of behind the scenes rather than just in the editor. And as you gain knowledge, you're going to be able to use this and even find it easier to use once you get more advanced. All right, so I opened up the style sheet editor before simply by double clicking it in the Content Explorer. But what you can also do is right click it and select open with internal text editor. And it's going to open it up like this. This is the same stuff that's in the style sheet editor. It's just, this is just a different way to edit it. And this is actually what I use 99% of the time. I do like to use the style sheet editor, for example, when I want to see mediums next to each other. It's just really cool and nice to see, but I just usually will go in here. I don't have, there are certain ways that styles are written, and as you look through it, you can kind of start to put the pieces together. What's going on here? And it's not like I have everything memorized how to write styles. A lot of the basic ones I do, but I know that I can go in and find it in the style sheet editor if I'm not exactly sure how something is written. But for the most part, this is how I'm working. So you can see that you've got your selector or your style, and then you've got brackets here, these curly brackets, which indicate, all right, I'm going to start telling Flare what the properties are for this thing. So for the IMG tag, there's border, and what's the value? None. Max width, 100%. Down to my paragraph style here, font size, 12 point. So if I wanted to just edit this and maybe I wanted to put in the font weight, you would just, once you learn it, you would go in and just type it, add it like that. So it has to be specific. Otherwise, this thing will give you an error and say, hey, you got something that's invalid. But if you write it the right way and end with a semicolon there, you're good. So you also will see these green things, which are comments. And I didn't actually, I'm going to save this. I didn't actually cover comments, but comments can be really, really useful, especially if you're on a team, so that people understand what things are used for. And you can put comments like in here. I've got my comments in sections. So it's just a way to organize what the different styles are for. But if you go into the style sheet editor, you're going to see that there's a space in here to add comments. So maybe with OL, which is an ordered list and numbered list, you want to add a comment for your team. Or maybe in here, the one that we added for P tip, and you could say, use this for blah, 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 whatever. And that, so somebody else is working in the style sheet. Usually you want to limit who's working on your style sheet on your team, but the comments can be helpful both for you and for others. And if I were to switch to Simplified View, you're going to see that the comment is there also, but it's just in another location. So there's the comment there in that cell. All right. So, and if you're going to be using the text editor, I mean, just use caution. If you've got this open and you've got your style sheet editor open too, because you don't want both of them with unsaved changes, then it's going to give you, it's going to say, hey, hold on a second. What do you want to do here? You're trying to edit the same thing, two different, deals. All right. So I do use this myself. Again, you don't need to understand all this at all. You don't need to work in this when you're first beginning. But as time goes by, you might find that this actually, it's not as scary as it looks. And you can get in here and make changes, pretty quickly in the text editor. It's just another option that you have. So there you go, creating and editing your style sheets. You are going to spend time in that style sheet editor, getting things to look just the way that you want. And don't be surprised if you tweak it and go look at it and have to go back and make changes. That's just part of it. But it's a really, really cool way to do formatting. It's the way to do formatting. And it really helps if you understand what's going on in those editors and some of the options that you have. So we are going to keep moving on down in this video series and next look at something that's really, really important. And that has to do with primary and local style sheets.